I don't know what John Tortorella might be saying to Artemi Panarin right now, but I'm sure he's great, actually. Torts was good in the press conference today saying, hey, we're dealing with all this and we're moving forward, and this team has dealt with distraction all year. We are now joined by Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, who's been all over the ongoing saga of Artemi Panarin. This first question, Aaron, is going to sound a little bit like like when you're in middle school and you have a crush on a girl and you really want her to like you, but she doesn't reciprocate, and you go to your friend in gym class and go, why doesn't she like me? So I'm going to ask you, why doesn't Artemi like us? I mean, I feel like that he clearly isn't like embracing Columbus like the rest of us do. Is there any indication as to why? Why are we here, and why doesn't he like us?
Well, I'll tell you what many of those girls in middle school told me. It's not you. It's not that I don't like you. And honestly, I think we have to be careful with this kind of stuff, at least people that do what I do for a living. None of this is he can't stand Columbus and he wants out. I think this is an important distinction. It's, does he want to spend the next 7 or 8 years here?
Gotcha.
Right? So, and it was put to me this way by another person around the league. How many people in Columbus make $6 million a year? How many people who make $10 million a year live in Columbus, Ohio? Mm-hmm. And it's not a shot against Columbus. It's not. I love it, or I wouldn't live here myself. I love it. It's great. But there are things on the menu when you make that kind of money in big cities that aren't available here. That stuff means something to some people. Doesn't mean anything to me, but it means something to some people. And it may be that it's not that he doesn't like it here. It's just that he could like another place long-term better.
Yesterday's statement really was, hey, nothing's changed. I mean, essentially, this is exactly where we were in June. I mean, nothing has really changed at all. So where yesterday would have been 4 weeks away from the trade deadline, it's right. Pretty clear nothing is going to change before then. So let me ask, do you think they move him?
Well, yeah, what's changed is now it's getting down to the nitty-gritty here if you're Jarmo Kekalainen. What's changed is they've got to make a decision. They can't keep punting this down the street. I think it's likely he is traded. It's not for sure he is traded. It's not out of the question that he's traded. I think it leans toward it's likely that he's being traded. Jarmo Kekalainen was as clear as he could be today, saying they're going to set the bar at a certain level. This is exactly what they did with Jack Johnson at the trade deadline last year. The different situations. This is a much more talented and a player that's going to be pursued much more than Jack Johnson was. But you set the bar where you want it. This is what I have to have if I'm going to trade this player. And if he gets that, absolutely he moves him. The question that's interesting to me is if he doesn't get all of the things, prospect, player, pick, whatever it is he sets the bar at, if he doesn't get that, does he say, okay, we're doing something here? I'll be honest with you. The idea of this team, this grow slowly, this patient, this develop from within, build something long-lasting rather than go for it in 1 year. This approach that they've taken makes it almost impossible for me to believe that they could let Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin both go in this summer with no return, which is why I think it's much stronger that Panarin gets traded.
Aaron Portzline of The Athletic joining us. Aaron, I heard you. I watched the press conference with Jarmo today, and I heard you ask him about if you decide to deal him, do you need a player in return for Artemi Panarin, understanding you're not going to get somebody as good, but somebody as opposed to just picks. And the way he answered it was that, well, typically, teams that are going to want him are going to send you just picks. But do you think that, let me ask you, because you were asking about the bar that he would set, do you think his bar is going to be, no, I understand what normally happens in these situations, but I need a guy too because we're still in playoff position. We need a player.
I think ideally he wants a player. I think and by player I mean an immediate player.
Right, somebody that's going to help right now. Yep.
Yeah, right. I think there's two ways to look at this. He could trade him easily for prospects picks, which is what the likely return is from a team that is a playoff contender. He said it. It makes perfect sense. Teams don't swap out players when they're loading up for the Stanley Cup playoffs. They add players. So the team that wants Artemi Panarin, most of those teams fall in the category, we'll give you futures, we'll give you stuff that doesn't impact us this year because we're going for it. But, and this may be where the best offer, the best return that Jarmo Kekalainen can get, if they can find the destination for Panarin, who said, we're not making the playoffs, we'll give you players off our lineup, but we have to know we can sign him long term.
Right.
That's the team that gives Columbus the best return. Now, I just don't know if that's going to be possible. Is Florida that team? Is Philly that team? Where they're willing to move bodies right now and futures for an elite level player. I don't know why. I don't think Philly's a team that he would sign with. I've heard Florida's a possibility. But there's a lot of different moving parts here.
Do they know the teams? I mean, as Milstein, as Panarin said, this, and this, I would sign long-term with. Do they? I would think that they must have an idea of where he wants to go and where maybe you could do a deal like that. Do they know?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's weird. He doesn't have a no-move clause, but he kind of does. He kind of does.
Yeah.
Because that's where the best deal comes from. So where do you want to go so that team knows that they can sign you? The Rangers we've heard all along, perhaps a team in I can't imagine the Islanders and the Devils fit that category, but a team in the New York metro area, the Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay, you hear Dallas, you hear Los Angeles. This guy wants to be in a big city with high rollers, clearly. But you look at those teams and the dynamics before them right now in terms of them making the playoffs and them roster building. I'm not sure where you find a fit.
What about Bob? Where do we stand with Sergei Bobrovsky? Do you think he also, you used the word likely talking about Artemi Panarin, do you think it's likely, too, that Bob is traded?
Well, I think it's less likely just because he has more control over the situation than Panarin does. They could trade Panarin in 10 minutes if they get the right offer. They don't need his approval on anything. Bobrovsky does have a no-move clause. Our Pierre LeBrun, the Athletics' Pierre LeBrun, has reported that there's been an indication from his camp that there's a willingness to lift that no-move clause, but only for certain cities.
Mm-hmm.
Can Columbus make – I think the bigger question in this regard is internally with the Blue Jackets. And I think you're going to see a whole bunch of Jonas Korpisalo here these next 4 weeks. Can they trust him to be a regular if they move Bob? If not, then it shapes the trade where they have to get a goaltender back for Bobrovsky, even if it's a one-year guy. They have to get somebody back that lets them compete this year, because the one thing we know about this trade deadline going into it for Jarmo Kekalainen, he may unload some major assets. I don't think he has any interest in taking this team down and demoralizing this team and lessening the roster before they hit the postseason or the stretch drive. If he loses those two guys, I think he takes very bold steps to replace them and give this team a fighting chance to A, make the playoffs, and B, do something.
Aaron, do you think the team, like Corpy has played pretty well the last, he really has. He's outperformed Bob, clearly. Do you think the team has that confidence that if they parted with Bob, that Corpy is a guy that could lead them into the playoffs?
I think there's a sense that he could get them to the playoffs. Let's face it, the Bob situation is a total catch-22, because we keep talking and keep hearing, well, they can't trade him before the playoffs. They need Sergei Bobrovsky in the playoffs. Well, why is this with Bob even an issue? It's because he hasn't played well in the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So like, you're acting like you can't possibly do the playoffs without this guy, when all of this frustration and really the reason the relationship is soured is because he has struggled so dramatically in the playoffs. Personally, I think it would have been wise to give Korpisalo a look in these playoffs previously when Bob has fallen to pieces, just to give him a taste of that. He is a guy, one thing they keep saying about him behind the scenes is when there is pressure there, when Bob is suspended and they need something out of Korpisalo, delivers. when he's getting 4 starts out of 6 games before the break, it looked really, really good. I don't know. I don't think anybody can say that he is for sure ready to be a number 1 in the league. I think it's probably too early to say, so you can't say that right now. But it's a weird position, guys. And guys get hot that are never hot again. Guys that have struggled their entire lives get hot and have the stretch of a lifetime. It's certainly in him. I just don't know if he's ready to be that guy yet. I don't know that we'll know that until they have to make a decision in that direction either.
Last thing for Aaron Portzline of The Athletic on the Jackets. To my knowledge, like watching the games, Artemi Panarin continues to be popular with the fans, with the way that he plays and his attitude. It seems like a happy-go-lucky kind of guy out there who is magic on the ice. Does that change? Do you think tonight, they're about to play Buffalo and the latest statement comes out and it's looking more and more like this guy is not going to be around? Does the fan reaction change tonight? Is he still widely cheered? Do you think you'll hear some boos tonight? Your experience with Columbus fans, what do you think?
I think there's a chance you'll hear boos that you have not heard before. I can tell you that his agent, Daniel Milstein, and Artemi Panarin himself have been absolutely, I don't want to say preoccupied, but it is high on their list, handling this in a way that does not lead him to face scorn on his way out of town.
Right.
I think he's handled it pretty well in that sense, but we're back to the middle school situation. At some point, that girl has to say to the guy, "I'm not feeling it, bro. It's not you. It's not happening." And we're getting closer to that point. We certainly got closer to it Monday. We're now a month away from decision time. But I think there will be some fans that are frustrated with it because it's not the first time it's happened, but this is the best player it's happened with, one of the best players they've ever had. And so there's frustration, and I think he may hear some of it.
All right, Aaron, great stuff. Appreciate it very much. Love having you on, and love reading your stuff in The Athletic. Appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you.